how you do not break into a full fucking sprint. It's like, maybe pick up the pace and get out of here just a little bit. There could be a fucking psycho badger killer out here. Let's get a little bit.
I mean,
get a little bit of cardio.
So
maybe
you
I
would
am
be my
out of that woods. You ain't never seen nobody out of those woods the way I'm gonna be out of those woods. Hello, everybody, and welcome to an exciting debut episode of Sacred Stories to Tell in the Dark. My name is Sacred, and I will be your storyteller here. Join me as I take you and my good friend Eric here through some of the scariest, creepiest tales that may or may not be true that can be found on the internet. Eric, how we feeling?
Oh, I'm excited, man. I'm ready.
I made you put on a shirt for this.
You did. It's worth it, though.
I know. I'm excited, and I know you're excited, because you're probably looking forward to proving me wrong all the time. Ladies and gentlemen, the concept of this show comes to the fact that my best friend Eric is a total fucking dick. He does not believe in anything, and he's quick to call every story bullshit. So we're going to be testing his ability to logically deduce whether or not a story is true or false. I will be reading him a story, and at the end, he needs to decide based on context clues and his own cognitive abilities. And we will see if he's right or wrong. Eric, if you are correct, you will hear this sound. And if you are wrong, you will hear this sound. Are the rules clear?
They are.
Alright. Now, Eric, before we jump into this story, let me ask you something. How do you feel about spending time in the woods alone at night?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's not a very good idea to stay in the woods alone to begin with, but alone in the woods at night, generally not a good idea. I can give you a few reasons why. Maybe some scary animals out there. Maybe some scary people. And that is the subject of our story today. Eric, are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
Alright, well, then let us descend into darkness. This is truly the scariest, most horrible thing that has ever happened to me. I have never been so petrified in my life. And to this day, I still do not know who this man was, what he was trying to do, or if he still is where I saw him. I'm sorry for how long this geographical description is. I just want everyone to understand how secluded I was when this happened, and how badly it could have ended if it wasn't for my parents. I was back home for the summer for the first time in a year after starting at uni. Our home was, and still is, just outside of the small town with forests all around. There was also a small man-made lake, which was diverged from a river that ran for miles through the forest and ramified into a few streams east of the lake. Near my home, there was a small grassy path that led to the river following a stream. It was a long walk, but one I used to go on often as a child. I knew the forest there well. I knew where I could cut through dense trees to meet the stream. The walk I would go on always led me off the path, which turned northwest slowly. So away from the stream, and then took a sharp turn to the west after a few miles walk, at which point the stream was hidden quite deep into the forest. I'd continue to walk north and follow the stream through the forest to get to the river, then follow the river west to get to the lake. It's easy to get lost in this forest because the terrain isn't just a slope down to the water. It goes up and down, and you end up completely surrounded by trees. I'd spent many days wandering around there, alone or with my dad over the span of 18 years. Never saw anybody else in that forest. I went there twice that summer, both times alone-ish. The first time I left in the morning. I walked along the path away from the streams to the sharp bend that cut back into the forest. I reached the stream after an hour or so. As I was running my hands in the water, I heard a bell from far away, coming from the north. Something was making a bell ring fervently and periodically, which I found strange. I listened well, wondering if it was a lost hunting dog, and started moving towards the sound. I know I'd be the first person to die, but I was heading north anyway, so what the hell. I realized it couldn't have been an animal. I could tell that the bell was too heavy because of how clear the sound was to be on a collar. I kept moving, and the bell was moving away from me. It stopped completely after 5 minutes. The stream wasn't big enough or strong enough to carry a bell that could have been enclosed in a tin or something, and the river was far too still. I thought of everything, but nothing explained the sound, apart from one obvious thing, which I just didn't feel comfortable with for some reason. I knew it had to have been a person. I stopped thinking about it, and just walked on normally. Now that is my immediate first reaction. If you are in the woods, in a secluded set of woods, that you know people don't go too often, and all of a sudden you hear someone ringing a fucking bell in the distance, do you continue after that bell, Eric?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, no, that is, I'm glad that they're at least self-aware that they're going to be the first person to die in a fucking movie, because you don't go after a bell you hear in the woods. Moving on.
I know. It must be a person who's going to murder me. Better go check it out.
Until I found a badger. A bloomin' dead one. Carefully decapitated. It had obviously been done with a knife. It was fairly fresh. The body was still limp and there wasn't too much smell coming from it. The wound was full of maggots, but I knew that happened soon after exposure. The sound of the bell had been following the stream. So would I. So the badger was put there, maybe killed there, at least decapitated, while I was walking that way. I suppose. Dunno, really. Nothing else happened that day. 1 week later, I went back for the second time that summer, and the last time ever. I left home at around 6 p.m. I made it to the stream, then walked to the river in an hour. Then decided to go back the way I came because it was getting late, and it was raining quite heavily. The sun set at around 9 p.m. I was walking as fast as I could. The sound and the rays in the trees was surreal and loud. I was somewhat trotting with my head down for a while through the clearest and most open part of the forest when I bumped into something heavy. The smell was sickly. It was the decomposing body of the badger, with his head strung to his front paws. That area looked a bit like a ham because of the way it was tied, just swinging from a tree. Like an almost literal load of bollocks. It was this putrid bag of stench, wet and dripping green liquid. I started gagging. I had some sort of mucus-textured fluid in my hair. It was repulsive. At first, I just stared at it, slightly gobsmacked. Then I started fidgeting violently because I felt like I was drenched in its juices. I was soaking from the rain. My senses became confused. This is a very unfortunate situation this person has found themselves in.
Well, so I was wanting to jump in a minute ago, but it just kept getting better as the badger became re-involved. So you're out in the place where no one ever goes. You know someone is out there, and there's a decapitated badger, so you know for sure someone is out there.
Yes.
But you decide, no big deal, I'll go back anyway. You're wandering around for hours. You're wandering around. You didn't check the weather, because it's raining outside. So
yes.
You're wandering around the woods in bad weather. You wait till 9 p.m. to turn around and start going home.
But so, yeah,
it's getting dark outside. You can't see anything. You can't see the dead, diseased, fucking badger hanging from a tree. But also, you don't see the badger, but you coincidentally walk directly into the badger. So is the badger directly in the path you always go? Or is it some new path that you don't normally go, and they knew to put the badger there anyway? Or they're just badgers hung up all over the fucking place, just in case you happen to be there? The entire badger population is dead? They've killed every badger in a 50-mile radius just to make sure they got you with the goddamn badger? I don't fucking think so.
And here's my thing. Now, I'm not a biologist. I don't know for fucking sure. But I don't think maggots work quite that fast. There's maggots in the wound, but there for sure was a fresh wound.
Yeah, that part I'm not so sure about. But my understanding, generally flies come in and they lay maggots, but I don't know how long it takes for maggots to hatch. It's like, they're eggs, but is it like a dinosaur egg? Is this a multi-month process?
Yeah.
Are they fucking germ eggs? Is it like, boom, egg, boom, germ? Not that germs lay eggs, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, so, like, my concern is, first of all, this badger, and we're just assuming that it was done very freshly, but there's already maggots on it. And what are the juices? Like, this thing is decomposing at lightning fucking speed.
Mucusy juices, specifically.
Yeah, like, they've gotten viscous. Also, the fucking head is sewn to the paws. This has escalated in a way that I didn't expect it to.
Well, and it's had maggots on it, this time, but it's not so decomposed that the flesh has not fallen
the flesh
off
hasn't
as
fallen off of it.
They've eaten
but
everything.
It is rotting and leaking.
It is. I don't know. I'm not a forensic scientist, so I don't know decomposition.
I just think a lot about this badger is not adding up.
It's almost like this badger was planned from the beginning. Oh well, I'm sure the badger tries very hard to do its thing.
We'll figure this badger out one way or another. It felt like a bucket of ice-cold water had been thrown over me when I realized that I walked the same way to get to the river, so someone had strung up the body after I'd passed it on the way there. Someone knew I'd see it. So, was someone watching me and running around the forest? Were the faint sounds of branches breaking around me not animals? I looked around and started jogging. How you do not break into a full fucking sprint? It's like, maybe pick up the pace and get out of here just a little bit. There could be a fucking psycho badger killer out here. It's got a little bit, little bit of cardio.
So
Baby, I am out of that woods. You ain't never seen nobody out of those woods the way I'm gonna be out of those woods.
That's the thing, though. Like, you never know for sure. Maybe he's still 1 billion miles into the woods, and so if he sprints, he knows he'll just fall over dead long before he makes it. But my question is, like, if I was out in the woods, and I went out the woods the same way on a regular basis and came back the same way,
yeah,
and someone strung up a badger where no one fucking goes into the woods, ever, except for myself, I'd be like, okay, who the fuck has ever come out into the woods with me? My dad! Then I'd bust out my woods radio that I presumably carry in case any emergencies ever happen, except for I'm a fucking idiot who goes back into the woods after seeing a probable serial killer victim. But
I just happen to be a badger.
Obviously, I'm calling it now. No, he said his parents saved him, but I'm calling it anyway. The guy's the dad. He's gonna kill the son, but then he and the mom are gonna come save him.
It's like fucking fuck. The thing that bugs me the most is going back to the jogging out of there. So this is a 3-hour round trip. Because if this person started at 6 and they're leaving at 9, this is a 3-hour round trip. It is already pouring down rain. So already they should be hurrying out. But
yes,
they did not pass that badger on the way in. So in the past, hour probably, someone has strung up that badger knowing that they were going to go through there, meaning this person was following them. So no fucking animal is hanging up a badger like that. You know it's a person who is at least within spitting distance of you.
True.
And so and you still decide to jog out of there. I can't get over that.
Well, and they were already, because before that they were like, I'm in a rush because it's late and it's raining and blah, blah, blah. That's why I didn't notice the badger hanging in front of me as I ran directly into it. Fucking smacked on the forehead by a badger dick because I'm not looking where I'm going. And
oh God,
it's
that what the juices were?
Oh, it's the mucusy badger dick juices. Jesus Christ, man. Well, anyway, back to the story. I can still feel them in my dreams.
I was half running, half walking away from the stream, back towards the path for a while when I heard the bell again. I proceeded to call my dad while running. I told him to meet me on the path where it sharply turns west. What you got?
He does have a fucking Woods phone, and he waits until now to bust it out. He doesn't tell Dad, hey, Dad, I found a fucking decapitated badger when I was in the woods just now,
like
earlier in the story. And then now, he's like, oh, I ran into that same badger from before that I called you about. And he fucking hung up with his head sewn onto his paws, and also I rammed directly into his dick. That way Dad can be like, yo, that's not good. Probably sprint out of there. Don't jog.
half jogging, half walking too. That's like there's still a part of them. It's like, yeah, I can. It's fine.
It's fine.
I'm good. I
mean, it's woods forever.
I'm gonna get my strut on, put on my headphones. Woohoo!
Oh, that's Single Ladies. I love that song.
Woo! I proceeded to call my dad while running. I told him to meet me on the path while it sharply turns west. It was the closest part of the path to me, to go as fast as he could, and that someone was in the forest. I can't explain the feeling I had. It was like I had to shit out my intestines and stomach. I literally felt the hairs on my neck raise despite being soaked. It was dark. I jogged as fast as I could. I was panicking because the path was still a bit far away, just too far to feel safe. It was still raining. Every single sound was muffled. I felt like everything was further away than ever before. The bell went on for way longer than the last time, on and off. I felt like it was surrounding me at one point. The fear combined with my compromised hearing, and the fact that I couldn't flip and breathe properly was making me slightly lose my sense of direction. I was automatically heading.
My apologies, but I just have to point this one out. So he's like, it feels like I shit out my intestines and stomach, and that's all fine and good.
I've been scared.
I couldn't flip and breathe.
Admittedly, that one just kind of came out of left field. We know he's not. I mean, if he had mentioned he had asthma or some kind of pre-existing condition, yeah, we're good. But I don't know. I've personally never been so scared that I can't breathe. I mean, maybe I'm lucky. Like, I don't know. Have you ever been so scared your breathing was compromised? I feel like you breathe the most when you're scared.
True, but not specifically like. Cause he's specifically been like, I've been jogging this whole fucking time in my horrible panic. Oh no, I'm so scared that I'm too afraid to move quickly, I guess. But like, literally 2 lines before, he's just like, it's like I shit out my intestines and stomach, and now he's like, oh, can't curse. It's bad. Daddy would say, gonna get a spanking. Gonna get a spanking, bad child. Oh God, I spanked you and your intestines and stomach fell back out.
Oh God, now I gotta dispose of you like the badger. I'm really holding out hope that it's the dad. It's like he calls the dad and he's like, oh fuck Margaret, I gotta go. He's in position. I was automatically heading southwest, but I wasn't really sure what I was even doing. I was breathing like a goddamn horse, coughing my lungs up, kind of crying out loud, like a toddler does, tripping over leaves and twigs like an idiot. I stayed on the phone with my mom, who was on her way with my dad. I kept hearing sounds, but I wasn't sure what they were. My mom was screaming on the phone at the same time that they were on the path, that I needed to run, and my dad had gotten out and was heading east from the path bend. I was terrified, so I went into survival mode. I was doing the half-running, half-speed walking thing again because I was out of breath. Then I heard branches break, clear footsteps for the first time from down in the forest, and the bell ringing louder. I didn't want to, but I looked over my shoulder. This right here makes or breaks it for me. All this fucking build-up, all this, like, back and forth. See, it's so out of focus is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so as I was saying, it's so, this build up has been so flippy floppy. I'm
terrified, but it was no big deal. I just kind of speed walked.
That's it, like, yeah, and that's my big that's the big thing too. Maybe this person's just really out of shape. Maybe that's it. But
I mean, I think it's supposed to be like, ooh, it's so secluded. Even, like jogging, it's so far of a jog that even then I'm exhausted on top of my intense fear. And it's like, yeah, that's all fine and good or whatever. But
it'd be one thing if he was like bushwhacking, but he said he's in the clearest part of the forest and getting onto a path. So it's not like he's fucking up and down hills, booning through the bushes. I don't know. I'm just really curious.
I don't know.
I want to see a badger killer.
I've done enough wandering through the woods during the daytime to think that maybe this guy is either further out than it made it seem, or he's an idiot.
Time will tell. The story's we're almost done.
Can't wait to see what happens next.
That's when I saw what was in the forest with me. A tall figure creeping in my direction at the very end of the clearing, ringing the spell slowly in front of his stomach. I could tell he was staring straight at me. Now I don't know if I had a hidden secret sprinting ability or instinctual adrenaline-induced superhuman powers, but when I tell you I ran for my life, I fucking didn't look back once. I screamed as much as I could. I lied. I'm on the phone with the police. They're on the path. Dad, I can see you. I'm here. I wanted to yell, Dad, please, where are you? But I kept that to myself. I felt like something awful was going to happen. I felt like the man was right behind me. I kept telling myself not to look back. I was gasping and wheezing, crying so hard and screaming for my dad. I felt shivers on my neck, and then switched off. I just ran. I even dropped my bag and only realized I didn't have it anymore when I was in the car. I felt like my phone was my only way home. Things no longer felt real. It was like my legs were moving by themselves. I didn't know if the man was still following me. I could only hear my heart beating in my ears and the bell. I finally heard my dad shout my name, and I knew he was coming my way and that he could see me because of the intonation in his voice. I pretty much lunged myself at him when we got to each other. My dad heard the bell too. My mom could hear it on the phone. She was waiting with the car ready to leave fast. We went directly to the police station. I got medical attention soon after. My dad burst into tears in the car, said he could hear the bell, and thought he wouldn't be able to see me. Asked what if I didn't have my phone? What if he hadn't picked up? They were almost as terrified as me because they witnessed everything through the call. They could hear me trying to run, and they could hear the danger. They just couldn't see it. The police couldn't really do much. They searched the area, and the only thing they found was a folded t-shirt placed under a rock. I didn't really question that at the time. And my bag was not recovered. They said it was probably some homeless man living in the forest, but failed to realize what could have happened if my dad didn't know the part of the forest like I did, and where to find me. I'm not blaming anyone. The entire thing was my fault. There are just so many what-ifs. I want to believe it was just someone who decided to live in the woods and hunt or something. Maybe they were a bit mentally unstable, and they felt angry that I came into their territory. But what if it was more insidious? The way he moved towards me was abnormal. It was perverse because of how slowly he was ringing the bell. It's like he had me trapped. I didn't see any more detail. I just ran. To this day, I can't bloody go anywhere where I'll be alone if the sound of bells is a real problem. The smell of moss as well. Anyway, my parents and Steve Jobs saved my life, so go hug yours, and take decapitated badgers and bells as pagan signs that you're unwelcome. And there we go.
Well, I can't go hug my Steve Jobs.
So he is not here anymore.
He is not. Well, he's never been here. He was
probably never. He's probably been in Texas
here. Probably.
So what do you think of that story, Eric? How did that one grab you?
I'd say on the scale of like good to bad, it was definitely closer to that bad side. I noticed not to say, and don't get me wrong, because I'm as bad as anybody about freaking out for little to no reason.
Same.
But like, someone ringing a bell, not inherently a reason to fear that they're a psycho murderer.
I mean, I guess. I think it's the combination. To me, I think the bell ringing, I would be worried in that context. Like, if I just see someone, like, on the side of the street ringing a bell, yeah, that's weird. How many people do you see ringing bells? Santa Claus is at Christmas time, that's it. So, like, admittedly, if I just saw someone just kind of standing there ringing a bell, yeah, that'd be upsetting. If someone was kind of, like, walking in my direction and in the woods, where I'm pretty sure someone was chasing me, and they're ringing a bell, yeah, I'm not gonna like that bell any more in that scenario than originally. So I don't know. I could see how the bell could be scary here. I don't know.
The issue isn't. It's like if you took the badger out of this story changes from, oh no, I was clearly gonna be attacked by a psycho murderer, to I freaked out at the sound of a bell and ran away from somebody.
He was just on a hike.
For no reason.
Just on a hike practicing their part in their orchestra.
It's like, and granted, the badger thing, that is fucking weird. If you throw that in there, I can be like, yeah, that's
guy,
a legitimate reason to be freaked out. That does not necessarily mean that he's a psycho murderer. He could just be fucking
weird.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like,
I don't know, but in situations like that, even if that person looks completely normal, which we didn't really get a description of the guy other than that he's tall and walking abnormally, but they didn't describe what abnormally meant.
That's true. He could just be Shaq with a bell.
Yeah. But even if
he's probably the Big Show.
Fair. Even if somebody is like completely fucking normal, even if like someone looks normal, if they're doing something weird, or unexpected, that can be weird. Like one time I went on a picnic with Elizabeth at the lake by my house. And we just hear screaming. And then we look over, and like 30 yards away behind the trees facing the lake, there's just a guy going, "Ah!" at the top of his lungs, intermittently, every like 45 seconds. And so I'm just watching this guy like a hawk. And he turns around, completely normal dude. He's got like a suit on. He's just got his hair back. He just looks like a chill dude. He's like, "Sorry, kids, relieving stress." And I'm like, okay, I'm just get out here before you relieve stress on me.
I mean,
we moved to a different part of the park, but that's what I mean. Like, someone could be doing something normal, or they could be they could look normal and do something normal, but in right circumstances, it's scary.
True, but I've got a story for you real quick. So this is the story of Jerry, the badger artist.
Okay.
So Jerry...
Do we need to turn
the
lights off?
He goes out into the woods. Yeah, let's turn the fucking lights off real quick. Okay, now that the lights are out, I have to tell the story in the first person. Okay, so I am Jerry, the badger artist. I go out into the woods where nobody goes, and I decapitate badgers and put them up in the woods as art while they rot, and it's a really beautiful metaphor about life and how life is fleeting like art is fleeting. Until one day, I was walking around ringing my bell, as I do, because it's just my thing, and it helps keep me company on the long wandering through the woods at 9 o'clock at nights. And there's just some kid fast walking through the woods like an idiot, and he runs right into my badger. So he continues to fast walk with the occasional jog, and so I'm wandering towards him, making sure he's okay. He seems kind of off, but I take his word for it, even though I didn't talk to him, that things are okay. But finally, he just looks like he's freaked the fuck out. So I step out into the open so I can ask him a question, and I start wandering over towards him, and he just fucking turns around and books it like nobody's business. And he leaves his bag. I tried to take it, but, when I went to the police station, I ended up getting arrested or something. But, luckily, I was able to make bail and nothing ever came of it, but such a strange kid. Don't know what he was doing out in the woods, but it's clear he shouldn't go out there anymore. And I never saw him again. And boom, there you go.
You really put me on the side of Jerry the badger artist. Fuck this other guy. He ruined his art. Okay, so I think we're in agreement that it was not a great story.
For sure.
But now it comes time to make a decision, Eric. I'm going to give you a few minutes. Let's work this out. Let's pro con this whole real or fictional thing. What are some of your initial thoughts?
So I always lean towards the side of, oh no, that's fucking BS. But especially because nothing actually really happened here, other than a badger getting strung up on a tree, which they say, and his head was sewn to his paws. As they say, it's not a. As they say, it's the dramatic. Well, and as they say, it's the middle, or not the middle of the night. It's 9 o'clock at night, where presumably it's probably dark, especially if you're in the woods.
And it's raining.
And
that's another layer.
And it's raining. And you're already clearly paranoid by your own admission. So, like, you know, I'm willing to give that the benefit of the doubt that if that's not what happened, that's like at least what they think happened. So in this particular instance, I would lean ever so slightly towards based on a true story.
Okay. So in terms of nothing too extreme happened, you can see it being at least based on a true story. But there's a lot of details that don't add up. If we can circle back again to this badger, which is a huge red flag to me, because we have maggots on a supposedly fresh kill. I looked it up. Apparently it takes like 2 to 6 weeks for larvae to hatch out of a fly's egg. So that was not a fresh fucking kill unless the maggots were placed. So that could have just been a ruse to add some extra gory details to the story. And just I suppose the location itself bothers me on a level of like, this is so secluded, no one is ever there, only me and my dad have ever gone here in our entire lives. You know, I've come in here 18 years, I ain't never fucking seen a soul out here, not a single camper or hiker or ranger or whatever. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, Badger Man has set himself up on the path you walk.
I mean, that's fair. It definitely, because, like, you know, one of my uncles who has passed away now because he was very, very old, but he had out behind his house woods, and there's nobody fucking around where his house was, and he had woods like that when they were younger, he'd go out and wander all the time and do stuff, and there was no one ever around because no one else is supposed to be out there because they own the land that it was on, right? But even if they were, why would you ever go out there? There's nothing there. You just wander around and look at whatever. Like, it's fun for him because it was his property, I guess. Yeah. But, like, to the average person, it's like, why would I want to go out to nothing and look at and do nothing?
And then get shot if I get found.
Yeah, so that part, I'm like, you know, if you want me to believe it's so far out and nobody goes there, it's like that, you know, I can buy that because I know of places like that exist. But yeah, that whoever this is who you don't know and doesn't know you because only you and your dad was the one who did your rescue, so it couldn't have possibly been him. Y'all are the only three people who have ever been out there is the two of you and this psycho murderer.
Yeah, like that. That seems like one of those, like... That seems like one of those, like, fate kind of things, which to me is in bad fate. Like, if this happened, like, if you were walking through the park, like the public park that you've always walked through your whole life, sure, because people go to parks. This is a secluded-ass neck of the woods, so why the fuck would this guy randomly be there? So, I think in those terms, the believability goes way down.
That's fair. I would agree with that.
Okay. Any questions or concerns you have about anything else on your mind on the table of whether or not this is true or fake?
I feel like I had something at one point that I was like, man, this seems really off, but I don't remember what it is now. So I'm gonna hazard a guess, say it must have not been that convincing one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, I'm gonna say I'm ready to make my final determination.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it. The first guess on our first story on the first episode. Eric, is this story true or false?
This story is false. God damn it, Sigrid, you talked me into it!
I just wanted to be wrong on the first episode. No, Eric, this story comes to us from the Let's Not Meet subreddit, where people from all over the internet gather to tell their tales of their creepy, unusual, and potentially dangerous encounters with strangers. And one of the main rules that is heavily enforced is the stories here gotta be true. So every story on this subreddit is at least allegedly true. So this is a true story. Allegedly. People do ask questions on this subreddit, though. So we got the original author, user Wilhelm Baudelaire. I'll put that in the description. They answered some follow-up questions, so maybe we can get some of our questions answered about this story. A user named Josette22 asked, I have several questions I'd like to ask before I comment, if you don't mind. You said it was a man. Can you describe this entity in as much detail as you can remember? When you said the badger was decapitated, was the head on the ground next to the badger? You said the way the entity moved towards you was abnormal. Please explain. The bell that was ringing, was it continuous or intermittent? Did you begin to feel nauseous when you heard the bell ring? The original author responds, it's all good. The bloke was tall, all I could see was his handbell and I got a glimpse of his eyes. The second I saw him, I ran faster. I think he thought I'd get tired or that I couldn't call anyone, so he'd be able to catch up with me. That's why he was slowly moving towards me. I never looked back though. In my mind, he was a bit of a cripple, but I didn't see him well enough to be sure. It felt futile and dangerous to look again. I can buy that. The badger's head was where it would be if somebody decapitated it and sort of shifted the knife a tiny bit to separate the head and the body. So just kind of like, askew. It wasn't placed in any odd way. That's why I came back, because I didn't find it too strange. That seems like a lapse in judgment.
Decapitated badgers are perfectly normal in this place where no one goes.
Yeah, that seems like a major lapse in judgment to me. But I digress.
I would agree with that. I've got one more thing to say. They specifically say I could see his handbell, and I also got a glimpse of his eyes. I don't know if you've ever been out into the woods in the middle of the night, but it's kind of like going out into places that have no lights in them in the middle of the night.
Yes.
Where you can't fucking see anything. And one of the things that you can't see on people when it's really dark is their eyeballs. Now, if you told me, oh, I could see because he was holding out his bell, bang, 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 whatever, that's all fine and good. But unless the moon is shining like directly onto his face,
yeah,
you shouldn't be able to see his eyes either. And granted, if this was something that happened, people tend to misremember and or embellish for effect things anyway.
Which that could definitely be what that is. I feel like anytime someone
right.
says, I caught the glimpse of their eyes, that's almost always embellishment.
Yeah.
Because it's dramatic, and it adds a little flair to it.
Yes, we locked eyes, and his eyes screamed, murder.
Alright, next up. It was abnormal because of how slow his movements were. When I started sprinting, I felt like he was chasing me, but slowly. Which made it scary, to be honest, because I could never tell exactly how fast he was moving, nor how close he was to me.
Jason.
I say, and that is a classic horror trope, which again to me is suspect. And like, you can fucking run as fast as you want, and they're just gonna fucking walk, but they're always right fucking there. So that seems a bit suspect. First time I heard the bell, it was frantic and didn't stop for about 5 minutes. That's also why I came back. It sounded like a call made by a human.
He went bang, 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 bang.
For 5 minutes.
For 5 minutes straight?
So he knew it was a human, and that's why he came back. He thought the fact that it was like, oh, that's a dude. I feel safe. See, that right there incriminates the whole story. It's just like, no, nothing strange happened. I didn't think there was a dude out there. And it's like, oh no, when I first heard the bell, I was like, oh, that's gotta be a fucking dude. I'll just keep going.
Yeah.
So that...
Yeah, because that's the thing. If someone is frantically ringing a bell for 5 minutes straight, if you don't think they're a killer, you should logically go check on them and make sure that they're not fucking dying under a rock.
And that bell is their only chance of someone hearing them ever again.
Yes. Yeah. Because, like, if I was trapped half under a rock and all I had was a bell, you better fucking believe that until I die, that bell is getting whacked the shit out of it the whole goddamn time.
Camptown races until the fucking... until it comes around the mountain for me. Alright.
First my luck, it fucking... Bang, 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 bang! And be like, there's a rattle in the bushes! And it's just like... Whoa! As a fucking bear comes and eats the half of me that's not caught by a rock.
Best of the bear pops up like, is that the dinner bell? And then they said...
you thought of that, not me.
I'm surprised you didn't. The second time, it was periodical. Fervent at first, then slow. It seemed menacing, like someone was talking, or a lure. I felt nauseous from the moment I touched the badger, and it got worse as I became more scared. I never thought anything was paranormal, though. I don't really believe in the supernatural. Because that's what the person who asked all those questions was going into. Because they talk about how, you know, bells are signal of, like, death and summoning and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, yeah.
So,
well, at least they cut that part off.
Yeah, so, like, this person at least still says, no, this was definitely a real dude out in the woods, not some weird mythical monster or something. I'm trying to see if there was anything else he really says. When asked to describe the bell, he said it was a hand bell. I think it might have been copper because it looked brown. The string was... Okay. The string was agricultural polypropylene banana twine. I feel like you got a pretty good fucking look at the bell.
No wonder he could see the fucking whites of his eyes.
He was right here!
He was holding the bell like this directly in front of you and just like... Ding, 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 ding. And you're like, ah! And he thought he was sprinting away when really he was like slow motion walking backwards.
Right,
as he continued to look right at the bell.
The dude was geared up for a chase, but he just wouldn't go any faster. He was like, oh, I guess I'm gonna make my way over. He says there's loads of it around here. Okay, so maybe he was just guessing that's what it was. He seemed pretty confident at the beginning of that sentence, though.
He's 100% certain that it is definitely that thing. I caught a tiny glimpse of the bell. Couldn't catch anything about the guy other than that he's tall and he walks slow. I disagree. This person's a big old liar.
But I said, the more I read this, the more I might be on your side. But that's the rules, and the mods haven't taken this down, so they must find it convincing enough.
Most of the stories on their subreddit are probably bullshit, so I don't blame them for not taking down all the ones that are not clearly true. Because at that point, it'd just be like, man, I went and picked up my friend Sacred from the airport, and then he did get in the car instead of going home.
God. When asked to describe the badger and head situation, he was like, the head was attached tightly to both front paws, the wrong way, though. Whatever that means. It was strung
upside
to the
down
tree.
or backwards?
It says it was strung to the tree by its back leg, so both wounds were dripping on me. Okay. Okay, someone else got on the maggot thing too. Said, I have questions too. Mm-hmm. The badger was killed recently, but already had maggots. It's around 24 hours for maggots, maybe 8 if you're in a warm tropical region. And they did not respond to that comment.
So they got no...
They got no answer for the maggots.
That is faster than I would have expected. So, I mean, like, depending on what you define as fresh, I don't know how long it takes for dead animals to get stinky. I don't mess with them when they're dead. So, like, you know, maybe he's got a bad nose. And he's like, oh yeah, this doesn't reek at all. Meanwhile, everyone in a 10-mile radius is fucking falling over from it.
Yeah. Last question I'm gonna have them go over because they later just goes like, oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you, and thank you. This is the last real, like, going after him question.
Right.
They quoted the story, and the only thing they found was a folded t-shirt placed under a rock. I didn't really question it at the time. You didn't really question it at the time, but now? Also a fucking crazy story that would make me, and honestly does, terrified of being alone in the woods. It's always a bit spooky when backpacking or camping, but I was trying to tell myself the most out in nature are good people. Obviously not always true, thank you for sharing. They respond, no real investigation took place because there was absolutely nothing to go on. I feel like there was a lot to go on.
That's the thing, though. Like, there's no crime that happened here.
Well, yeah, there's no crime,
unless killing the badger was like fucking poaching.
I'd imagine that.
But the cops don't go after that. That would be like a game warden.
Let's say the ranger service or something. But I don't know. I mean, you could make the case that there is a potential threat that needs to be investigated, and you're like, I don't know, asked to move along, if not detained, because there's a guy who made threatening gestures towards me, and I believe is torturing animals in the woods. That's enough that you maybe get a search party to sweep the area.
Maybe. I don't know. These are really secluded woods, though. Why would anyone ever go out there?
That's fair. No real investigation took place because there was absolutely nothing to go on, but the police figured that it was disturbing enough to go to the forest first thing in the morning with my dad to show them where it happened. There was nothing suspicious, no tent or anything, no badger, no bag, just a folded t-shirt under a rock in the area I was in. They showed me the t-shirt in case it looked familiar, which it didn't. Everyone said that it was most certainly nothing, and the police couldn't do anything more than what they already did. They were convinced he was just a homeless person. I've been thinking about it a lot and trying to talk about it to those around me, but they say I'm overanalyzing. I feel like we're underanalyzing, but that's just me.
Yeah. So the added folded t-shirt under a rock, that feels like it's only there to imply that the person is a murderer.
Yeah. But they also didn't say anything about, like, oh, it was a ripped one or had bloody shit on it. Like, no, it was just a folded t-shirt under a rock. Could have been unrelated entirely.
Also true.
Like, somewhere in a national forest in Texas, my underwear is chilling out in the in the woods. So
that it is.
Who knows? But that's a story for another day. Anyway, thank you for joining me on this scary story, Eric. I hope you enjoyed it at the very least. And thank you everyone at home for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed that story as well, or you enjoyed having fun about it with us. And we will see you all next time on Sacred Stories to Tell in the Dark. Good night, everybody. Really gotta finagle that fucking light, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.